On the night of my son's grand opening, I was sitting on a damp mattress in the supply warehouse of the hotel I had built, scratching it out with my own fingernails. From the ballroom above, the sounds of expensive heels, the clinking of crystal glasses, and laughter vibrated the dusty ceiling above my head. Those vibrations felt like sledgehammer blows echoing inside my brain. My daughter-in-law, Isabella, just 2 hours ago, had looked with disgust at my dress, which didn't suit the hotel, and said with that cold, soulless smile of hers, "Elena, very important international investors are coming tonight. Your old school look doesn't fit our brand's new modern vision. Please wait in the warehouse. Stay there quietly. Don't worry. I'll send you a food tray." In my own hotel, the Blue Horizons Hotel, where I mixed the mortar for the foundation with my own hands, where I selected the curtains for every room one by one, where my late husband and I gave our youth and our lives. Now I was like an excess, a shameful stain that needed to be hidden, a secret. I was living a prison life in my own home. But there was a small, very small detail that Isabella and my son Marco, who was looking silently at the floor, hanging on his wife's every word at the time, did not know, had not calculated. That detail was inside a yellowed, dog-eared envelope, resting in the inner pocket of my old jacket, right over my heart. And when that envelope was opened, that glittering party above, where champagne flowed like water, would turn into the darkest, coldest night of their lives. Hello, I'm Elena, and I will tell you how a person's 40 years of labor was attempted to be erased in a single night by her own son. How blood ties can sometimes open deeper wounds than the sharpest knife. And how silence, when broken at the right time, can be more destructive than the loudest scream. If you are watching this video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments which city you are watching from right now. Because this story is a reflection of the common silence of mothers, not just here, but all over the world, who are ignored and pushed aside. Her everything actually started 6 months ago, right after I buried my husband. I hadn't even had the chance to mourn. Marco and Isabella came to me and said they wanted to take over the management of the hotel. Marco held my hands, looked into my eyes, they were his father's eyes, and said, "Mom, you are very tired. You worked for years. You should rest now. We will modernize the hotel, bring it up to date, but we will keep your legacy, my father's name, alive." I believe that sparkle in his eyes, that fake affection in his voice. He was my son. I had raised him, sat up all night when he had a fever. He took his first steps towards me. How could he have bad intentions? I left the management to them. I stepped aside. But I realized too late that what they called modernizing was actually destroying my past, my memories, and everything I had. First, they changed the name of the hotel. They took down that warm, sincere Blue Horizon sign and wrote The Lux instead. A cold, soulless, gray, metallic name. Then came the people, the veteran employees, the gardener Antonio who saw this hotel as his home, the heart of the kitchen, Cook Maria. They threw them out the door in one day on the grounds that they didn't fit the vision and were old. When I tried to speak up, when I objected, Isabella shot me that condescending look and said, "Elena, you don't understand this business. Times have changed. There is no room for sentimentality anymore." They turned me into a stranger in my own hotel. But the final straw, the moment everything snapped, was this grand opening night. That night, while sitting in the locked warehouse, I took my phone out of my pocket and opened the security camera app. Yes, the mother whom her son thought didn't understand technology and could barely use a phone had installed a secret camera and audio system in the hotel last month. Because a mother's instincts are never wrong, they were whispering to me that something was going on, that I was about to be stabbed in the back. What I saw and heard on the screen froze my blood. In the middle of the ballroom, Isabella and Marco were popping champagne with a group of foreign businessmen in suits. Their voices were crystal clear. "We're signing tonight," Isabella was saying, drunk with victory, raising the glass in her hand. The old woman doesn't suspect a thing. The poor thing still thinks we're going to run this place. We'll turn the hotel into a chain and sell its land to this construction firm. They're going to tear this place down and build a huge mall and residence. When we get the money, posting Elena to that cheap nursing home outside the city will be child's play. Marco hesitated for a moment, his voice trembling. "But my mother, this is my father's legacy," I promised her. Isabella suddenly turned to him, her face transforming into a predator. "Your father is dead, Marco," she hissed, "and your mother is now just an obstacle, a dead weight. Either you get rich and we get rid of our debts, or you rot in that old house with your mother's dusty memories. Make your choice." My son made a choice in that moment, in that second. He was stuck between his father's legacy and his wife's ambition, and he chose the wrong side. He straightened his shoulders, raised his glass, and said, "To the future." The moment I heard that sentence, the mother inside me died. That compassionate, forgiving woman took her last breath. And in her place, the tough, uncompromising businesswoman who had fought tax inspectors, economic crises, storms, and hardships for 40 years to keep this hotel standing, took over. I wiped my tears. It wasn't time to cry anymore. It was time to settle the score. I stood up. The warehouse door was locked. Isabella had locked me in there like an object, so that I wouldn't go out and embarrass them with my shabby state. But there was a vital thing they forgot. They didn't account for. I had built this hotel. I knew every inch, every brick of this building. I knew where the ventilation shaft led, the secret code of the service elevator that only I knew, and the staff entrance behind the kitchen like the back of my hand. It didn't even take me 10 minutes to get out of there. I unscrewed the vent cover, crawled through the narrow tunnel, and slipped in through the back door of the kitchen. 15 minutes later, I was at the kitchen door of the ballroom. I was wearing my gray dress that they called unfitting for the vision and old-fashioned. My hair was a bit messy, my hands were dusty, but my posture was as upright as a queen's. In my eyes was that unshakable will given by years. The microphone was on stage. The lights were on Isabella. She was speaking into the microphone with fake humility. And now, as the architects of this magnificent transformation, we leave the past behind and walk into the future. We proceed to the signing ceremony with the new owners of our hotel. I started walking. The silence that fell when I entered the hall was heavier than the music stopping. My heel sounds echoed on the marble floor. Clack, clack, clack. Everyone froze. Isabella's face went pale as a sheet. Her smile froze on her face. Marco dropped the pen in his hand onto the marble floor. The sound it made created a bombshell effect in the hall. "Elena?" said Isabella, her voice trembling, almost dropping the microphone. How from the warehouse?" I didn't answer. I walked straight to the stage. I reached for the microphone. Isabella resisted giving it up, panic in her eyes. But I grabbed her wrist so tight, so strong, that she moaned in pain and had to let go. 200 people in the hall held their breath, watching this strange scene. "Welcome," I said. My voice echoed through the speakers. A calm, icy, authoritative voice. "Tonight, you were told a wonderful transformation story. The future, the vision was mentioned. But I think a small legal detail, seen as unimportant, was skipped." I put my hand in my jacket pocket and pulled out that yellowed, folded envelope. I opened it slowly. The rustling of the paper was heard through the microphone. My son and daughter-in-law forgot to read one thing, when they took over the operation of the hotel. Or even if they read it, they thought I wouldn't pay attention to it. The master contract we made when buying this land with my husband in 1985. I held the paper up in the air, waved it for everyone to see. The land, the building, and the trademark rights of this hotel are protected by a usufruct right annotation registered in the deed. Meaning, I said, looking directly at the CEO of that construction firm sitting at the table, staring him in the eye. Without my wet signature, without my consent, not even a nail can be hammered here. This place cannot be sold, cannot be transferred, cannot be demolished. The owner of this hotel is me until I die. Marco lunged forward, his face bright red. Mom, what are you doing? We're being humiliated. Everyone is looking at us. Humiliated? I laughed, a bitter, short, hysterical laugh. Do you feel the shame now, Marco, that you didn't feel when you locked me, your own mother, in that damp warehouse and raised a glass upstairs to sell your father's legacy to a mall project? Isabella screamed, losing control. She's lying. We have power of attorney. She transferred everything. Your power of attorney, I said, turning the last page of the paper, reading word for word, only gave authority for operation, not ownership rights. And according to Article 4 in this document, if the operators engage in behavior that damages the reputation of the institution, act immorally, or display bad faith towards the property owner may terminate the contract unilaterally and without compensation. I threw the document onto the table right on top of that sales contract. And I am terminating it, effective immediately. All the investors stood up. Whispers turned into a hum. The representative of the construction firm packed his bag, anger on his face. You told us ownership was full, he shouted at Marco. You lied to us. We don't do business with fraudsters. Our lawyers will contact you. The hall began to empty. That magnificent night, that glittering balloon, deflated with a single pinprick. The waiters, most of whom were my old employees I had called back for that night, put down their trays, stepped aside, and looked at me with pride. Isabella walked towards me crying, her makeup running, her mask fallen. You ruined our lives. We planned everything. We have debts, Marco's gambling debts, my credit cards, our luxury expenses, millions of dollars in debt. This sale was going to save us. What are we going to do now? Is that so? I said calmly, nodding. So my legacy, my husband's blood and sweat, was meant to clear the money you ate up at gambling tables and luxury stores. Marco was crying, collapsed on his knees. Mom, please. They'll throw us in jail. The debts are huge. Help us. I looked at him, that innocent child I once rocked to sleep on my knees, whose hair I stroked. Now he stood before me as a portrait of greed, weakness, and betrayal. Something inside me ached, but I suppressed that ache immediately. The warehouse, I said. Marco and Isabella looked at me. They didn't understand. They were looking at my face through tears. The warehouse, I repeated, pointing downstairs. The supply warehouse downstairs. There are 2 mattresses there, slightly damp, but you can manage. If you want a place to stay tonight, that place is available. Because there is no room for you in any room, any suite, or the lobby of this hotel. There is no room for you in my home either. I took a deep breath, so my voice wouldn't tremble. And tomorrow morning, first thing, we are going to the prosecutor's office with my lawyer. I will file a criminal complaint for the cancellation of your operating authority, causing damage to the company and the money you embezzled. I turned my back. Maria, the old cook they fired, was waiting at the kitchen door with a tray of hot tea in her hand. Her eyes were full. She smiled at me. Isabella screamed from behind me, her voice desperate and shrill. You You are a heartless witch. How can you do this to your own child? What kind of mother are you?" I paused. I cast one last glance at them over my shoulder. There was no anger or love in that look anymore. Just a great disappointment. I am not heartless, Isabella. I'm just cleaning out the unnecessary and rotten elements that do not fit our brand's new vision. I entered the kitchen. Maria handed me the tea. My hands were trembling, but not from fear. It was from that strange, shaking lightness brought by lifting the burden of the self-sacrificing mother who endures everything that I had carried on my shoulders for years. The next day, Marco and Isabella left the city. Creditors were after them. Collectors were at their door. I don't know where they went. They turned off their phones. And honestly, I don't wonder anymore, because everyone pays the price for their own choices. I changed the hotel's name back to Blue Horizons. I had that gray sign taken down and lit the blue neons again. Antonio returned to the garden among his flowers. Maria returned to the kitchen to her pots. Now, when I sit in the lobby, I only hear the laughter of guests and the sound of waves coming from afar. Am I lonely? Maybe. Sometimes the silence feels heavy in the evenings, but at least I live under the roof I built myself, by my own rules, with my honor. And believe me, those 2 hours I spent in the dark on that mattress in the damp warehouse gave me the biggest, most painful lesson of my life. Before handing over your own throne to your children, make sure the crown is still with you, and that they are worthy of wearing that crown. Otherwise, that throne will become your grave. If you like this story, leave a heart in the comments. And remember, sometimes the greatest strength emerges the moment they ignore you and say you are finished. See you in the next story. With love, but most of all, stay strong.